Hey guys, welcome back. If you're new here, hi, my name is Shayna, and in my little corner of the internet, we talk about spooky history of all kinds. If that sounds like something you're interested in, be sure to hit that subscribe button and notification bell because I upload every week. I also have a podcast called Spooky History with Shayna Blake, and that is where all of the audio of my videos go. So if that's more your thing, I'll be sure to have a link down in the description for you. Now today's video was requested to me by a subscriber, James. He found a horrible person for us to talk about today, and I can't wait to tell you what all I found. So thank you, James, for the recommendation. And if any of you who watch my videos or listen to the podcast have a recommendation, let me know. You can either let me know in the comments of YouTube or you can swing over to my Instagram and send me a message. I may not see them right away, but I will look into it, and if I find enough info on it and it fits our little theme here, then I will do a video for you. So without further ado, let's talk about the horrible person, Carl Panzram. Carl was born on June 28th in 1892 in East Grand Forks, Minnesota. His parents were John and Matilda Panzram. They were East Prussian immigrants. They were a farming family and they had 6 children together. Carl's first criminal act that we know of would happen when he was only 12 years old. He would go to his neighbor's home and he ended up stealing a cake, some apples, and a revolver. Now, when his parents found out about this crime he committed, they would send him to Minnesota State Training School. Unfortunately, this school would be a place where Carl, along with many other students, was raped, as well as being abused physically and mentally by the staff members. He would later be released in 1905, and now because of the abuse he had to endure, it would drive him to becoming an alcoholic, and his crimes would continue but become more dangerous as he got older. He would run away from home at the age of 14, and Carl would enlist in the U.S. Army in the year 1907. Then, only 1 year later, he would be convicted of larceny and would serve in prison for 2 years in Fort Leavenworth, which is the United States disciplinary barracks. It would be this sentencing that would cause his mindset to worsen, which would get him more involved in criminal acts. It just seemed that the more he was disciplined, the more he lashed out, which is the reverse effect of what prison and jail is supposed to be doing. Carl was for sure his own breed of crazy. Now, after he was released from jail, he would continue his burglary and theft crimes. He stole just about anything and everything he could get his hands on, but he was not a very good thief because he kept getting caught, so he would keep going back to jail. And he wouldn't restrict himself to just one city either. He went everywhere he could. He traveled all over and had many different aliases. In fact, his imprisonment records would have a different name for him each prison that he went to. And he was a very violent man. When he went to prison, he would attack anyone who annoyed him, essentially, such as other inmates or even guards. It didn't matter to him. He didn't follow orders very well. Now, Carl was known to have a great physical strength, so when he would go to grab and rob men, he would overpower them and then would rape them. And in 1915, he would go and rob a home in Astoria, Oregon. He would, of course, get caught because he would try to sell the stolen goods near where he stole them. So he would end up serving 7 years at the Oregon State Penitentiary in Salem. Now, while in Salem, he was disciplined many times. He had to do 61 days in solitary confinement. I feel like that would mess anyone up. Now, Carl would end up escaping prison, but was caught soon after this attempt. Then, in May of 1918, he would escape again by sawing through the bars of his cell and would catch a freight train that was traveling east. How the guards didn't catch him sawing these metal bars, I have no clue. But he did manage to escape, and he would use the alias of John O'Leary. And in order to make himself unrecognizable, he would just shave his mustache. And that did it.
That was easy.
And that would be the last time he was seen in the Northwest. Then in August of 1920, just 2 years later, he burglarized the home of the War Secretary, Taft, in New Haven, Connecticut, who, at the time, was our former President William Howard Taft. Now, Carl specifically targeted Taft because he believed that Taft was responsible for his Leavenworth imprisonment. Carl stole many things, which included precious jewels and bonds, as well as Taft's Colt, which was a .45 caliber handgun. He decided to take advantage of now being in possession of a handgun, which would make him even more dangerous. He would begin an 8-year-long murder spree. 8 years long.
Yikes.
Using the money he stole from Taft, Carl would purchase a yacht. He would use this yacht to lure sailors away from the New York City bars, where he would get them drunk, then rape them, and would shoot them with his gun and toss their bodies near the Execution Rocks Lighthouse in Long Island Sound, which is on the border of New Rochelle and Sands Point in New York. He would end up admitting to killing 10 sailors. His yacht would end up sinking near Atlantic City in New Jersey, and when his yacht sank, he just decided to catch a ride to Africa. I mean, why not?
Sounds plausible.
While on his way to Africa, he landed in Luanda, Portuguese, Angola, which is where he would go to rape and kill a young boy. Carl never skipped a beat. It seems like he took every opportunity he could find to commit a crime. Now, soon after this criminal act, he would hire a boat that had 6 rowers. He would then shoot all of them and later threw their bodies to the crocodiles.
What a horrible person.
Now, after this little getaway to Africa, he would eventually grow tired of it and came back to the States in 1922. Now, once he got back, he continued his raping and killing of men and boys, and I mean, it seemed never ending. Then from 1923 to 1928, he would burgle a few homes between Baltimore and Washington, D.C., and would commit a few murders along the way. Now, while Carl was a very skilled murderer, he was still a very bad thief. He was sloppy. Now, because of this, he would finally be arrested in 1928 for the burglary he did in Washington, D.C. And during his interrogation, he would voluntarily confess to killing 2 boys. This would cause him to be sentenced to 25 years at Leavenworth Federal Penitentiary. Now, when he got there, he would warn the warden that he would end up killing the first man that bothered him. He wasn't lying. Now, while he was doing a solitary job in the prison laundry room, he would end up beating the laundry foreman to death with an iron bar on June 20th of 1929. And because of this murder, he would be sentenced to death. Surprisingly, Carl was fine with this decision. Despite his lawyer's advice, he chose to not fight it. He would go to say, "I look forward to this seat in the electric chair or a dance at the end of the rope, just like some folks do for their wedding night." Wow.
Well, that's weird.
Now, some human rights activists would try to interfere with Carl's sentencing on his behalf, and he would scorn them for it. Publicly, he would say that he wished he could kill them all. So, now despite being a horrible person, Carl would end up making a friend on death row, a guard named Henry Lesser. He ultimately felt sorry for Carl and gave him $1 so he could buy some cigarettes. Now, soon after this random act of kindness from Henry, they would become friends. Henry would encourage Carl to write his life story before he died. Henry would begin sneaking Carl writing materials, and he would start to create his memoir. He would spare no horrific details of his murders and crimes. His graphic account of his crimes was too gruesome for some to stomach. Then on September 5th of 1930, at only 39 years old, Carl's death sentence was carried out and he was hanged. Now, everyone except Henry was happy to see him go. Carl's last words were, "Hurry it up! I could have killed a dozen men while you were screwing around." So, that, guys, is the horrible story of Carl Panzram. He was absolutely awful. He didn't care about anything, and he didn't seem to be scared of anything. I mean, he had nothing to live for, and people who have nothing to live for can really be terrifying. Tell me what you guys thought of this story and what you all want to hear from me next. Thank you again, James, for recommending this to me. I was shocked that I hadn't heard of him before. But that's going to be it for me today, guys. If you're watching on YouTube, be sure to hit that subscribe button and notification bell so you don't miss any of my future uploads. Or if you're listening to my podcast, be sure to leave me a review if you can. Either way, I'm just happy you guys are here watching and listening. I hope you guys have a very blessed week, and I will see you all later. Bye.